the people who have got the cameras on, can you just give me a wave or a smile if you can see what the presentation there? You can. I'm getting thumbs up. Amazing. That's great. Okay, well, we'll crack through this. Feel free to chip in with any questions at any point. Akur and Liam, if you'll just keep your eye out on the chat and interrupt me, that'd be great. And we will, bear with me. Are we still there? We're still there. Sorry, my computer is not playing with me. This is great when it works, isn't it? And then when it doesn't, it's not. It's okay, let's carry on with the presentation. My computer's telling me that it might want to restart my computer in 15 minutes, so I'll go 15 minutes through the presentation and then I'll come back to you if not. Liam can hold forth. Okay, so let's fire through this. So that's the welcome. So as Akua said, my specialism is in engagement and audiences, and my colleague Liam is museum specialist. Liam and I both lead on different areas of Cambridgeshire. So I'm the lead for Peterborough and Liam is the lead for Fenland. Our colleague Adrian, who was supposed to be here today, is the lead for Cambridge, but bless him, due to the demand of some of our funds at the minute, he's been pulled into two other areas at the moment, but just so you know that he's normally the Cambridge lead. So what we're going to do is talk to you first of all when my computer catches up. It's just got too much going on, hasn't it? I might give up on the presentation, Liam, and just talk. No, it's not changing. Come on. There we go. Will it change, do you think? Oh, so far we can just see a very dull looking screen. There we go. Okay. So what I love the animations that they've been put on here. So what we're going to talk to you first of all is about our new strategy, because it's important to highlight this. Although the project grants, since we've reopened, it hasn't necessarily completely shifted to kind of for the different criteria of the fund is not completely shifted to align with all of these outcomes as of yet. It's very important to start to think about our new strategy and get into kind of a kind of way of working that aligns with our new priorities. So really, with our new strategy, I don't know if any of you have had a chance to read it yet. It is on our website if you'd like to have a look. We've got three main outcomes, the first of which is around creative people, the second is cultural communities, and the third is a creative and cultural country. So the first one there about creative people is the idea that sort of everybody can develop and express creativity through their lives. Cultural communities is about us looking at kind of, you know, villages, towns, cities, and helping them thrive through a collaborative approach to culture. And our third outcome is around England's cultural sector being innovative and collaborative, and it's about our kind of international presence there as well. These three outcomes will be supported by 4 investment principles, and these are definitely going to be the kind of 4 pillars of our strategy. The 4 investment principles are as follows: ambition and quality, inclusivity and relevance, dynamism and environmental responsibility. And at the moment, we are sort of in the process of developing our delivery plan to support our next 10-year strategy. And that delivery plan will be available in a lot more detail as of next year. Obviously, COVID's happened. I wonder how many times we'll say that through this session today. Things are different, and that's delayed obviously processes for us. So there's a bit of a delay in that being released. But generally, if you look on our website, it gives you more information about what we mean about all of these 4 sections, about these 4 pillars, and they are very much what they say on the tin there as well. So I'm gonna try and move this presentation on. It's super slow today, but we'll get there. Okay, so let's have recap of project grants for those of you who know this fund already. It was previously, if you know it from a while back, called Grants for the Arts. It's now National Lottery Project Grants, but we call it Project Grants for short. What I'm going to talk you through in the next sort of 4 or 5 slides is the kind of strands of project grants. So most of you will know that you can apply for £1,000 to up to £100,000 from this fund, and project grants, you know, in its normal form, we can apply for an under £15,000 application or an over £15,000 application. And then in a minute, I'm going to come on to some other slides that talk to you about a couple of other strands through project grants, which include sort of capital projects, grassroots music, libraries, and a specific section around museums. But first of all, let's just refresh your memory about project grants in its sort of entirety there. So we've reopened project grants. It was as of the, I can't even remember the date, Liam. What was the date? July? We're past it now, aren't we? Was it the 22nd of July we reopened project grants?
Yeah, it was 22nd of July.
And what we're doing is we're running project grants from now and up until April 2021. And in April 2021, what we imagine we will do is have a look and revisit the programme again then. We wanted to get this fund back up and running as quickly as we possibly could. In order to do that, we've made some changes, but not probably as many drastic changes as we would have liked to. In order to do that, it would have delayed us reopening. So we've really focused on actually what we need, what the sector needs at the moment is for us to get this fund back up and running, and get some good work being funded and projects happening. So that's kind of where we've prioritised things at the moment. But project grants, as some of you will know, funds different elements, arts activities. We support dance, literature, music, theatre, visual arts, combined arts, and also festivals and carnivals. We fund museum practice, so we fund accredited museums only, but we do fund any museum or library to deliver any arts activity. That's right, isn't it, Liam?
That's right, yes. So, for example, we'll only fund museums to deliver museum activity, such as collection reviews and collections work. But we'll fund any museum or library to deliver arts activities, such as an arts project within a museum.
Super, thank you, love. And then obviously one of the core fundamental principles of our project grants is the public engagement. So the projects that we fund must reach the people in England, and this is because the funding for project grants does come from National Lottery Good Causes money. So it's public money. So we want to see that investment going back to the people who bought those lottery tickets. This can be, though, in person, online, as a visitor, as a listener, as a reader. There's multiple ways in which you can engage with the public, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next couple of slides about how we imagine that's changed in light of the kind of current situation. One of the newer things that we've added in since it's been changed to project grants is that you can also apply for creative media projects. So basically this means using technology to make and share work in our supported disciplines. So really, there's lots and lots we can fund. We support things like gigs and concerts, plays, exhibitions, residencies, research and development, workshops, podcasts. I mean, the list is sort of endless there. Who can apply? It's anybody in the EU. So it has to be for work that benefits artists' audiences in England. So, I mean, obviously we do get more applications than we can fund. We get well over 10,000 applications. Bear with me. Sorry, I'm just having a little technical difficulties. I'm trying to get rid of the fact that my computer wants to restart. If I can get rid of that. Nope. It's ignoring me completely. Sorry, lost me mid-flow there. So I think those of you who are familiar with the project, this all feel relatively familiar, relatively the same. Let's now move on and have a little talk about what we think has changed. Oh, no. So, as I said, we wanted to get this back up and running as quickly as we can. And however, we're very aware that now we're living in a, I dare say, post-COVID world. It's a different time, isn't it? So we're very much expecting that when we've reopened this fund, we'll be receiving a different type of application, essentially, and we're going to be considerate and accommodating and understanding of that. We are expecting to receive a high volume of applications, and we're trying to do our best to put resources in the right places in order to make sure that we can handle that demand. But we're particularly through this process keen to support applications from individual creative practitioners, that includes kind of time to think and plan for them. We're looking at research and development activity, because obviously that's really important and something that can be really can be more easily done during this time, I imagine. We're expecting that organisations might want to think about organisational development activity. And we would really love to see, of course, we'd love to see live activity, but that can be safely delivered within this period. I think that's kind of the key point there. And we have a new set of equality objectives, and we would really like those, the kind of work that we are funding to align with those equality objectives. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that you've got the link to that on our website, so you can see specifically what those are. So I haven't included them today in this application. There are still a few things, obviously, we can't fund through this project. So we can't look at reflating or creating reserves for organisations through project grants. We can't look at retrospective costs. We can't fund debt mitigation or projects with sort of no short-term or long-term benefit to the public. But I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide in relation to public engagement. So let's just try and move it along. There we go. Okay. So the four main criteria of the project grants application are still the same. We've still got quality, public engagement, finance and management. The bits that I wanted to talk to you about today in relation to what's changed are these three sections here. So in terms of public engagement, we know that the public engagement is likely to involve smaller numbers for live activities at the moment, or you're going to be looking at focusing on engaging people through a digital means, or you're going to be looking at public engagement that might engage people in a longer in the future, engaging work with you might be doing something now that has a benefit, but the benefit is a while from now. So we're going to be really considerate of that. We understand that good public engagement will look different to what it did previously, but it is really important that you focus on this section and really think how audiences, public, are going to engage with you, how they're going to do that safely, what kind of processes you're going to put in place, and different ways in which you might reach people now. I know we've seen some really interesting and creative things happen through this period. Not that we funded, and it'd be really great to see some kind of innovative ways of reaching new people and engaging audiences back into being creative themselves, or engaging in as an audience of creative activity. So I suppose all I'm saying is that not much has really shifted in public engagement, other than we are going to view this differently. We are going to be expecting that we're going to have a lot more digital activity coming into us, and that we might see projects that have a longer term benefit to public, and we might see projects that have smaller numbers than we would have seen in the past. And the thing is, we're going to be considerate of that. We're okay with that. So then let's just talk about management quickly. So this is about what we're going to be looking for here is that that applicants have considered how during this period you can safely engage with live audiences, what risks you might have in place that what risks you might have that might have not have happened before, what the
I'm sorry, everyone. There seems to be a lag at the minute. We'll just give it a couple of seconds and see if Natalie's connection improves. Sorry about this. Liam, is there any chance that perhaps you can pick up from where Natalie has left off in the interim?
Yeah, so let me just, I might be able to share the presentation that I have actually. So let's see if I can do that. Okay. Okay. So can you see the presentation? Hold on.
Not yet, Liam. And actually, Natalie has mentioned in the chat if she's asked if we could pause for questions so far, and then she'll join us. So there were some questions that came up in the chat. In fact, there's a couple of questions there now. Liam, from Ruth, with engagement plans, do we need to show alternative plans for if lockdown starts up again, or versions so if only a few can access, etc.?
I think what we're asking for at the moment is for you to just be realistic about your project ideas that you have. So if you wanted to do, for example, a performance, obviously, in a venue, currently venues like theatres are closed. So it would be just speculative that you'd be able to do that in the near future, because we don't know when they're likely to reopen. But for example, perhaps doing the performance digitally, whether you wanted to stream it or share it in other ways, or to do socially distanced versions outside. Just being realistic about the potential for what you can do with the activity. And then for the engagement side of things, we're not expecting you to reach hundreds of thousands of people. We might have expected perhaps more of that in the past, simply because even earlier this year, it was easier to engage with people and get people to come visit you and for you to go out and engage with others. So simply that's not really possible right now. So you might want to think again about how can we engage with people in other ways. But we certainly wouldn't be put off by an application that said, we want to reach a certain amount of people, but we're not sure how it's going to do yet because we don't know what the current situation is. I think we're certainly open to just trial and error at the moment and some research and development for figuring out what works, because it's a very different world right now. Are there any other questions occur at the moment?
There are no further questions in the chat so far, but
well, maybe
it might be worth referring to a couple of the earlier ones in case others didn't see them.
Sure. So we had I think I've answered a few of these questions. We've had questions about the success rate. Like I said, I can't really give you an idea of the success rate at the moment, simply because since project grants have just reopened and people are currently applying for things, we don't have a success rate built in. Usually the success rate, I think, was about 60% beforehand, so it was more likely that you would get funded than you wouldn't. However, that does vary from time of the year and week to week, because obviously we don't know necessarily how many applications you might get in one week over another. So I can't give you a proper success rate, but that's the best benchmark I really have at the moment. And then someone asked about, can applications be made to projects that continue beyond April 2021? Yes, they absolutely can. So our project grant funding can last for up to 2 years. I think the minimum activity is 6 weeks, the maximum is 2 years. So as long as it's within that time period, we can absolutely fund it and deliver it in that time.
We have 2 new questions, one from Sarah Crompton. Could you perhaps talk about access and how costs can be attributed? Is it the same as pre-COVID?
Yes, I think, but we also have some further access support, I believe. I mean, are you talking about in the application or in the actual grants that we can get, that we provide?
Sarah, would you like to unmute yourself and just clarify your question?
Yes, sorry. Yes, it was actually about is there different ways that we can apply for access costs? So previously my understanding of access costs was that if it's for an individual artist, then that's the access cost. If it's for making your work more accessible, then it has to be within the grant amount. Is that different now that we've got a whole new scenario around the concept of access? I'm not sure. It's just been in a chat that I've had with a few producers in the past few days that we've gone, has access changed? And how does that then, which side of that line does it fall within an Arts Council bid?
Sure. As I understand it, you can apply for whatever access costs you think you need. So whether you're an artist that has particular access needs, whether you're working with a particular group that has access needs, or whether you want to have access, extra funds for access to improve your potential audience engagement that you can have, you can certainly apply for any of that, and that can be built into your application. We also have, in terms of in the application process, we have some accessibility options and different people within the Arts Council that you can ask for extra support and help with that. So as I understand it, if you put it in the application, it doesn't, you'd be able to apply for that with that extra funding, and it shouldn't make a difference to your application, because if anything, it's a benefit, because we want to see that people are considering access needs of others within that.
Hi Liam, I'm back.
Oh, good. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm back on my phone. I'm just oh God, I love tech, haven't you? Sorry everybody. I'm here on my phone. I'm just going to log back in on my computer now. It was just taking a little bit of time. I just caught the end of that. I just want us to jump in on the end of that, if that's all right. In that, so access, no, I don't think access has changed dramatically, Sarah. No, I think it is the same as it was previously. But what we would expect at the moment is, if you wanted to apply for the particular access fund, that access fund is in addition to your activity costs that would help any applicant have the access support that they needed in order to make the application. And then within the body of the application, we would definitely be able to see additional costs about making your work accessible for audiences, for for performers that you might want to recruit. We would definitely expect those those costs to be reflected to match the activity that had been outlined. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Natalie, if you want, I think people can see the presentation on my screen currently, so we could just keep going with that and you can carry on talking. But if or you could choose to go back onto your computer, whatever works for you.
I think if you can keep the presentation, my love, I'm just going to jump back in on my computer, and I'm happy to keep talking. Bear with me.
Great. In that case, I'll just answer the next couple of questions then. So we have Question from Ruth about when applying, do we ask to discuss an application with the regional lead or appropriate specialist area? No, you absolutely don't have to. You're welcome to. We are open to having conversations with people that want to talk about project grants and ideas, and we're happy to have those discussions with you. But you can, if you feel confident, you feel like you know what kind of things we're after and what you want to put in, then you can just go ahead and chuck in an application. But like I said, you're welcome to come and chat to us as well. Then we got a question from Jane about how long does it take to get a decision after submission. So for project grants under £15,000, it's a 6-week turnaround time. Or for project grants over 15,000, it's up to 12 weeks. So maximum time would be 12 weeks, but it depends on the amount of money that you're going for. And then Ruth has a current project grant for artist development which had to be put on hold as it relies on school programs. Yes, Ruth, I would talk to Adrian, because we've been trying to keep up to date about any projects that have been stalled by the current situation and what to do in that case. So you can either contact Adrian, or we have a Southeast Project Grants email as well that you can get in contact with, or our customer services can help with that as well.
Liam, are we okay to share email addresses, yours, Natalie's and Adrian's after this session?
As I understand, everyone was happy to have their emails shared. So I think Adrian was planning to do that anyway, because obviously he did it for the other session we did. So yeah.
Fab.
You could share that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Great.
Okay, I'm back in. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm so sorry about that, everybody. You literally can't plan these things, can you? It was not having any of it. I kept saying, no, don't restart. Super. I missed some of that. I caught some of it on my phone. Is everybody all right if we just get through the last couple of slides of this presentation? It might answer some more of your questions. And then, as I say, Liam and I are happy to use the second half of this session to kind of guide you through any thoughts or ideas you've got. So I'll just keep going if that's okay, Liam, if you're okay to still keep sharing the screen.
Yeah,
the only bit on this thing I think we didn't quite talk about was the match funding, was the bottom point. So we've talked about the management. Obviously that we're just essentially looking that that's going to look quite different as well, in that we'll be expecting to see that you've taken into consideration government guidelines and kind of best practice around that. And obviously, you know, I can see on some of the chat there, you're saying you've got kind of current open projects, and we're just going to be definitely looking to see that you've got kind of more contingency probably in place than you might have done, you know, pre-COVID. And I think we're definitely considerate of the fact that things might change. You know, we might have second waves, we might have there's lots of unknowns, and we're kind of living in that world, and we're going to be completely fine with that. And if it means that actually what you want to do is, you know, if you're successful in a project grant and what you want to do is pause that project grant because it's not right at this situation and this time, we've been working with other open grants to kind of shift to the timelines and change activity plans and adjust activity plans for them that have open project grants as well. So what I want to say is you need to manage that carefully. Please don't let it put you off from applying. Will be as accommodating as we can to obviously be flexible to the situation. So match funding then. So those of you who are familiar with our project grants fund usually will know that we request a minimum of a 10% match funding to support your application. Obviously at this time it's quite difficult to get match funding, to get funding or kind of support in kind that you might have got from other people. Everybody's in quite difficult circumstances. So what we're doing throughout this period is we're saying if you don't have match funding, or if you have less than 10%, you can still submit your application. If you do have some match funding, whether that's cash or in kind or a mix of both, then do tell us about that with your project. But what we'll do is we'll make decisions. When we're making decisions, we'll take all of that into consideration. Obviously, we'll know that it's difficult securing other funding, and we'll take that into account when we're making decisions. So please don't be please don't deter away from this if you think, oh no, I can't do it because I can't find the match funding. Please just draft your application anyway if you're not meeting that 10%. I think it's it's a really we're being sympathetic and accommodating of that. Everybody okay if we move on to the next slide, Liam?
Yep, let's move on. But there's just a question from Jane here about the match funding. She just asked, will projects with match funding be prioritised? No, they won't. We're not going to look at any projects above or below any others simply because you have match funding. It's just to help level the playing field at the moment because it's a difficult situation right now.
Yeah, as Liam says, we're definitely going to take it on merit of how well planned the project is, how well we think the management of that project is, and take a look at the other factors. We're not going to compare that against another one who's got more money at this stage. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit. I don't know if it's relevant to anybody in this group, so we'll just touch over it quickly because it might spark some ideas. But we, I don't know if anybody's aware, we also support grassroots live music through our project grants strand. So this is not to get confused with the grassroots emergency funding that we've just closed, which is why Adrian's not here today, bless him, because he's working on that fund. But this is a ring-fenced proportion of money through project grants, where we are looking at trying to develop the grassroots music scene across the country. So there are some specific kind of set of requirements around this strand of project. I'm not calling it a different fund because it's not. It's just a strand of project grants where we're looking at kind of. So it's artistic programming or audience development. So that could be kind of a season of performances or shows across one or more venues. It's just giving you time to kind of take risks on programming, look at kind of new genres of music and new ways of presenting live music. And particular, we're interested in projects that would kind of develop a more diverse program or diverse audience. The other kind of criteria for this section is about developing a venue's resilience and sustainability. So you could come in to apply for things like trialling alternative uses of the venues during kind of non-show times, such as offerings that music related activities for children and people, for example. You could look at afternoon performances or kind of off-stage talent, renting the space as training activity, all those kinds of things to help look at the resilience of grassroots music venues. And then we're also open to looking at equipment purchases and small capital building works through this fund as well. It was quite interesting earlier when I think John had put on the chat, he was sort of saying, oh, I've got to go because my Mac's about to blow up, and I was about to say, you can purchase assets through project grants to help you support with your work and your creativity. Bless him. We'll make sure to drop him a message to tell him that. But yeah, I think definitely with kind of the assets, you can look at amps and PAs and microphones, lighting, rigging, all of that kind of equipment that's needed. You can also apply for capital projects through our project grants. If you're applying for more than £15,000 for capital works, you do have to get permission from us. So it's best to have a look on our website at how you get permission to apply for that. But actually anything for under £15,000, you can apply for capital through project grants. What you do need to do, however, is make sure that you answer the 4 main criteria of the fund. So we still would expect you to tell us the artistic idea of the project, the public engagement and who that's going to reach, the management and the finance, and so it still needs to kind of stick to the same form, and you need to be able to answer that in order in relation to the capital work that you want to do. So let's just have a quick fire through. I think there's 2 more slides that I think we're going to go into detail on, and the rest I think this group will be confident with. So the next one is about the libraries projects. So all libraries can apply to project grants for new and creative and cultural projects, and we're looking at them delivering on the 4 universal library offers. This is the 4 library offers, the universal library offer. So it's reading, culture and creativity, information and digital, and health and wellbeing. So reading there, it's about any projects that kind of encourage people to read for pleasure or support literacy, or create excitement around reading. So it's sort of projects that are looking at reading groups, events, workshops, residencies, that kind of activity. Culture and creativity might include sort of projects around storytelling, dance and performance in libraries. It's anything that will spark sort of curiosity, imagination, and kind of provoke and stimulate. We're then looking to support information and digital, so it's projects that will be kind of loaning devices, so iPads, for example, that would go to kind of isolated service users, online training resources, kind of job club related activity, any of that sort of activity we can support. And the last one there, health and wellbeing, so it's any kind of projects that focus on promoting healthy living, kind of combating loneliness, reducing health related socioeconomic kind of inequalities there. So, anything sort of sensory experiences for people with special educational needs, or yoga, tai chi, social prescribing projects. So any of those we will fund through our project grants libraries. And then the last one, I feel like I've rambled and talked for ages, and Liam, this is totally your bag. Would you like to take the I'll let you take the slide.
So the changes that have been made to museum project grants are that now we can that now subject specialist networks can apply for project grants for work that benefits accredited museums. If you don't know what subject specialist network are, there are 40 of them across the country. They are specific networks of professionals within museums that have a particular specialism, such as the Social History Curators Group, or the Islamic Art Network, organizations like that. So they are recognized by us, but previously haven't been given any funding by us. But now they have the opportunity to do that as long as it's work that benefits an accredited museum. So NPOs can apply to project grants for subject specialist network activity as well, as long as it includes accredited museums again. And any applications for subject specialist network activity must demonstrate how their project furthers public engagement with museums, but that's nothing new because we ask that of everyone anyway. The other thing which I don't think is in there is that now freelancers that work with museums as well can also apply for project grant activity as long as they're working with an accredited museum. Whereas previously we hadn't funded freelancers that work with accredited museums. So if you or someone you know is a museum freelancer, you can also access project grants funding for that as well.
Amazing, thanks, Liam. Okay, so the kind of last couple of slides here, I'm not going to go into too much detail about, because essentially I think this group will probably know a lot of this information anyway. There's no further changes beyond that kind of point. What I'll do is I'll share this presentation document with you. I'll send that to Akua so she can send that out and share that with you afterwards. It does include the contact details. I'll put myself, Liam's and Adrian's details on there. It includes our customer service team's contact details, who I cannot recommend enough. They are absolutely fantastic. If you need, to get in touch with them at any point, ask them any questions. They are super, particularly when it comes to kind of navigating through Grantium. And it also has a little bit more information about access support and the offers and what we can offer in terms of access support there. So it will give you some links and details. But I think what I'm going to do is, knowing that we've got 15 minutes left, I think it's probably best for Liam and I to pause at this point and just open the floor up to anybody who's got any thoughts, ideas, questions about this, questions not about this. I'm completely open to what it is you feel, in this last 15 minutes that you need from Liam and I out of this session. If that's okay. Everybody okay with that? So we've got some coming in now.
Yeah, got a question from Svetlana asking how much novelty should be in the application. And I think we might need some clarity on that one, Svetlana. Do you want to come in and explain what you mean for that?
Do you want to stop sharing your screen, Liam? So we might be able to, then we could, because if you want to...
Can I just ask? So if I was awarded COVID grant for specific activities in mental health hospital, can I include some of this activity to continue the work with mental health, or I shall come with completely new ideas?
So what you mean is that some of the activity you've already done it?
Yeah, in the moment, I'm still working on this support fund.
Okay. So what we can't do is you can't include in your application any cost to cover activity that has already happened. But if you already have experience of working with mental health in a hospital, and you want to that'd be a really good thing to include in your application, because you'd be able to say, you know, I've tried and tested methods in this sector. You know, it would give us more of an assurance of the fact that you're comfortable and confident in working that sit-in, that you have safeguarding in place, and that you're kind of building on the success of something. That is completely fine for you to kind of continue that, and we can fund the activity in the future. But as I say, what we can't do is fund anything that you say, well, this has already happened and I'd like to pay for it retrospectively. We can't fund anything that's already happened. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it sounds. I didn't ask about the funding, cover cost, but like developing of idea, like phase 2 from what I've done until now.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that would be, yeah, we definitely would expect you to say, yeah, that's completely fine. If you said, I've already done this, and actually what I'm applying to you for is the second version of this, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? I can see that's the same one. We got any other questions at all? Anybody got any thoughts? Is it surprising? Does it look drastically different? Is anyone scared? Is everyone excited? Yeah, I can see some thumbs up. Does anybody want to know anything else?
Has anybody got an idea that they might just want to chuck out there at the moment about what you might be interested in? Oh, we got hands up from Sarah. Do you want to come in, Sarah?
Trying to make this work.
We can hear you, Sarah.
Oh no, you're muted.
Sorry, am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're fine now.
My laptop's being slow. I'm terribly sorry. I had actually a question, if you don't mind, about MPOs, and is there a change in the threshold for the amount of money that they can apply for as project grants? Because it was 100,000, I think. Is that right?
Yes. So the threshold is, sorry, I've also now got a delay, so I don't know if you can see me.
Sorry.
At the moment, Sarah, it is still the same as it was, which is 100,000. But we are reviewing it, because we have listened to feedback from the sector, and in light of kind of, you know, of current situations, obviously we're looking at how we might support individual freelancers and creative practitioners through this difficult period. So we are investigating whether it's a possibility, but as of yet we don't have any definite that we're able to do that. At the moment it's still 100,000. As soon as we know any more on that, we'll definitely be able to get back to you.
Great, thank you.
Cool. And then so I'm just going to quickly answer Louise's question. Yes, freelance artists can apply for the Universal Library offer, as long as you're working with a library that has agreed to the project, obviously, and wants to work with you to deliver that, then it's absolutely fine. And then Daphne has an idea she'd like to share. You want to come in, Daphne?
Unmute myself. Can you see and hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, hi everyone. Well, I have an idea about a musical project, but what I was wanting to ask. Part of it is obviously performing live streaming, but also checking the option to perform during the summer or spring outdoors within social distancing guideline. And because I've read in the Musician Union information that now some cities allow to perform outdoors because of the COVID-19. So is that something the Arts Council will consider?
Yeah, outdoor performances are, or were allowed, aren't they? I think they still are technically. So at the moment, this is all subject to the ever-changing guidelines of our government at the moment. So right
so
now,
if I include that in the application, would that can be a problem?
No, because for example, if you were applying for activity to deliver next spring, like you said, that's absolutely fine, because you would hope and expect that by next spring we should be in hopefully a bit of a better position to deliver activity generally. So I think we would look at that and say that that looks like a logical timescale to do that, and that would be hopefully safe then to deliver that kind of activity outdoors. Again, if we agreed to fund a project and for whatever reason down the line it couldn't happen because of coronavirus or other situations outside of your control, we won't punish you for that. That's not your fault. You know, we would look to see if there's a solution that we can provide where the project might be delayed and you might be able to do the activity a bit later, or we might look at other ways to deliver the activity, whether it's online or in other forms. So yeah, it's worth putting in an application, because if you get funded and something happens, it's not your fault, as long as it wasn't something that was your fault.
And do I need to research? Thank you. Do I need to research which cities? Because for instance, some cities want application to apply. Some cities allow much. Do I need to research which cities allow performances outdoors, or?
Again, that would depend on when you're looking to deliver the activity, because you know, even if you have a list of if you apply to deliver work in a city that is currently fine to do that, then it would be okay. But if it's in a local lockdown, right now, Leicester is, for example, that would appear to us like you weren't aware of what the current situation was. So I think it would be within your, you know, with your best interest to at least have a look and just be aware of where might be affected by the current situation. But again, it depends, because if it's something you're looking to deliver next year, you have no idea what the situation is going to be next year. So again, that's really kind of out of your knowledge.
I think it would just be about within your application as well, like, you know, when I was saying earlier about making sure that you've got contingency more than normal. I think it's just about I sit as part of the national touring team, so I talk to the touring team quite regularly about how difficult it is to kind of tour work around the UK at the minute. And when we were saying, you know, it's just the uncertainty and this idea of, like, you know, the fact that different people got different local lockdowns and different rules. I think it's just about making sure that you've done your research and you've got, you know, some wriggle room in your budget to actually go, okay, if that all falls through, what can I do? How am I going to manage that? But as Liam sort of said, if then it all goes a little bit pear-shaped, then we just go back to the drawing board and we'll be supportive of it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and then there's a discussion here from Ruth, who is interested if we know of any examples of innovative ways of sharing and exhibiting work online. Does anyone use an online space that can be safe for sharing resources and work with vulnerable groups? And particularly looking for space to work that would work for teenagers, somewhere that feels more like an artist studio and less like a classroom, I guess. Do you know of anything like that, Natalie?
Not on a digital. I haven't. I'm just reading the other notes here saying that Jane had put about Mighty Networks for painting projects. Yeah, I might have a look into that myself. I don't know of any kind of. I know of a couple of organisations across the country who've done some really interesting digital work. So one of the Creative People and Places projects that I look after in Luton have they completely reimagined their project during lockdown to go online, and worked with young people to do a lot of kind of jam music sessions, and they worked with a food bank to get ukuleles out to young people, and then taught vulnerable young people ukuleles on, ukulele lessons online during lockdown, which was lovely, and worked with the food bank to get creative packs out to vulnerable families as well. So they really found quite an interesting way of working with kind of local organisations, non-arts organisations, to really reach people in a genuine and different way. But they did a lot of theirs through Zoom, and I know I've also heard some quite horrible story. I've had another client who had a horrible situation with a group of elderly participants in a Zoom chat. So I know you have to be quite careful. So I think when you're putting in an application, it's just try and do your research there and just make sure that you've got all those kind of safeguarding bits in place. But in terms of platforms, I'm not quite sure. I would recommend, if none of you have had a look before, on our website, we've got a digital culture network with a team of tech champions. I would definitely recommend getting in touch with one of the tech champions, because they will definitely know all of the really cool platforms and best practice in terms of what to use for digital. They'll be able to advise a lot more on that. And at the beginning of this, I was having a chat with Akua about potentially getting some of the tech champions in to do a session for you in the future as well. So we've got some that specialise in various different things, kind of video content, social media, and lots of there's about, is there 8 of them, Liam? They're fantastic. They're so amazing. So we'll get one of them to come and have a chat with you to do a really focused session on that in the near future as well. Thanks, Akua. She's popped the link in the chat for you there.
So second, like, recommending the Digital Culture Network. They're really, really useful. They all have different specialties, like social media or streaming and content provision and e-commerce. So anything you might need at any point, they're really, really useful to help with. And then Louise has just asked, are you able to share examples of successful universal library offer projects and museums projects? I can give some examples of museum projects. I think just because we've only just started having universal library offer within project grants, I don't think we can give any examples of that currently, but I can certainly run you through a couple of museum projects. For an arts project within a museum, a good example was one that happened in Epping Forest Museum in Essex, where the team wanted to work with some vulnerable older people within their community who have mobility issues, and they wanted to do essentially a dance project for people with mobility issues. So we worked with a professional dancer who has also had some experience with physiotherapy. There you go. So she was aware of the different body needs that people might have, and they based it off the trying to reinterpret their museum collection through this dance program with older people. But it also served as a sort of memory cafe for the older people, for them to be able to engage with the items that they might have remembered from when they were younger and bring back those memories. So that's the kind of positive arts activity within a museum. But then in terms of a more museum-focused museum project, the Powell Cotton Museum in Sussex, East Sussex, I think, did a project to look at the history of their own museum and where their items came from, and try and decolonize the collection to understand the historical legacy, the links to the slave trade within that museum, and create exhibitions and content and learning materials for students in the area to understand the transatlantic slave trade through their local museum. So that's just an example of projects that we funded within museums as well.
Great. So I've just put a little note in the chat there saying that we will definitely have some library case studies coming up on the website in the near future. Keep an eye out on that. We have about 2 minutes left. Has anybody got any last burning question? It doesn't have to be about project grants. Just anything you want to throw at us. Me and Liam are happy to chat about. Tim's got his hand up. Hi Tim. How are you? Would you like to ask your question, love? I can't hear you.
You might be muted.
Sorry. First of all, hi everyone. I'd like to congratulate Liam on his beard. Well done. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Natalie, I'm a little bit disappointed with yours.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did try. I tried my very best. You just have to get closer.
Just thanks very much for doing this. I think that there's not a major change. It doesn't appear to be, but certainly there are some things in there that are making it a lot easier, which is really, really good. Just with something that's going on, we've got a load of things that are a little bit in the air at the moment, but one thing that we have looked into is that digital format for things like galleries. So and we would probably have to reinvent our whole website as well. So would that be available as part of a project grant?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Tim, I think that would come under what we'd say sort of organisational development, if I'm honest. You know, we could definitely look at kind of covering. I've worked with the Place in Bedford when I previously was the lead for Bedford to do exactly that, and they had a successful under £15,000 application. I'm sure they won't mind me saying. To look at organisational development, and their kind of bid included to look at development of a new CRM system, development of their website, but it also included things such as training their box office teams, their front of house teams, looking at kind of access and how they could improve access, and looking at audience development tools and how they could look at really reaching new audiences by having these kind of tools in place. So yeah, yes, essentially is the answer. We can definitely look at that coming in for a kind of organisation development bid, and as I say, perfect time to think about that and sort of think about how you build your kind of. It's perfect time for thinking, isn't it, at the moment? Perfect time for reflection, and getting your kind of ducks in a row. So yes is the answer in short.
And then on that note as well, I did come across something, and I don't know if it is part of the Arts Council, but I got the impression it was something to do with it. Was a scheme called Own Art. Own Art. It came from. I don't know if it is from the Arts Council. I think it might be, but basically it's a 0% loan scheme for people to buy art.
I have heard of that, Tim. I haven't come across that. I don't think that's anything to do with us. It sounds like a great scheme, but yeah. I don't think we haven't been told anything about that internally. So
okay, so that was as much a heads up as a question as well. But interesting thing that you've got someone lending money out there to get people to buy art. And just as I always say on the meetings like this, it would be really good if anyone's interested in partnering up, because I always like working with lots of people anyway. And what we're doing is going to be doing something hopefully very impressive. So we're looking to engage everyone that's interested in doing something, no matter what media they are or how they work. The only thing we're interested in is just being nice people. So that's one of the things that you've got to be quite nice to work with us, which isn't a bad thing, but that's fine. Thanks very much then. That's really good.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you.
Perhaps, Tim, you could share your email on the chat so that people can contact you.
Yep.
Fabulous. Well, we're at 4 o'clock, and I just want to say thank you very much to Natalie for persevering with the technical issues that she was experiencing, and thank you very much, Liam, for continuing the momentum of the session as well. And thank you all for attending, taking time today to ask your questions and find out about the Project Grants Initiative. We have been recording this session, and we'll make the recording available to all who registered for it, along with the slides that Natalie displayed. We'll also share the email addresses for Natalie, Liam and Adrian as well, if you wish to follow up with any specific questions. But I don't think there's anything else to add, unless Natalie or Liam, you'd like to say something?
Just thank you, really. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I'm so sorry about my technical difficulties. We do make a good tag team, me and Liam. It's a good job you were by my side today. So, but thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, let's say thank you as well. And hopefully we'll start to see some of your project grant applications come through, because it's been a while and we've missed them as well. Don't worry. So.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Look after yourselves. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.